I think we can look to the Declaration of Independence to understand what the proper role of the federal government is. In the Declaration of Independence, we learn that we have unalienable rights, including the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and government was created to secure those rights. We hear often the phrase that the government doesn't create jobs, the private sector does, and I believe that's true. However, the government does impact and influence the economy and job creations, and they do this several ways, but principally they do it through regulations, which can create higher burdens for businesses and can inhibit job growth, and also through their fiscal policy and their spending and what they do can have an influence on the markets, especially when their bonds and whatnot. So what influence should the government have? Well, with those levers, I think they can certainly impact job creation by lowering the regulatory burdens and eliminating unnecessary regulations. I also think, too, that they can restore confidence in the markets by the way Congress acts in terms of their debt and their spending, as well as removing unnecessary uncertainty by passing only short-term fixes or taking things to the brink. I think when the government acts responsibly, it will help the economy, which will then foster private sector job creation. One of the major problems with the tax code is that it picks winners and losers, and I believe that's not right. So to make it more fair and equitable, I think you undo those choices that are embedded in the tax code. We can eliminate a lot of loopholes and a lot of favoritism that is embedded in our tax code. I also believe that we need to move towards a flat tax, which is actually more fair and equitable, but realizing that things we can do here and now are eliminating a lot of the loopholes and things that give preference to some people over others. I believe education is a state issue. I do not believe the federal government should be dictating to states curriculum or educational choices. I think education is best left to the states and to the local control and also to the parents. The parents know what's best for their children. Okay. Our sovereignty is critically important and sacred, and I don't believe that we should be subject to laws or rules or regulations that we did not have a hand in creating, making, or consenting to. In talking about employment-related felonies, including identity theft and whatnot, I know that if I commit those crimes, I will face a punishment. I don't believe, because people here are illegal, should be any different or should have special privileges or be accepted from any of those punishments, the same punishments I would face if I stole someone's identity. When we talk about energy policy, there are a lot of different angles to that. Certainly we need to reduce our dependence on foreign sources of oil, and we also need to conserve, and we need to look at alternative forms. However, I think one of the big areas that we need to address is the resources we have here in our country. I believe that we need to look to those in helping us become energy independent. In doing that, though, I don't think it means we throw out concerns we have for the environment or taking care of our earth. I think no one wants to live in a place that has been ruined, but I do believe we can look to opening up and expanding the exploitation of our natural resources and do it in a way that's sensitive to those other concerns. Okay. So American exceptionalism is the belief that America is unique and is different and is the shining city on the hill. And what drives that is some of the principles that we hold dear as Americans. including principles of liberty, of equality, of individualism, of personal responsibility, or capitalism, of the rule of law. Those are the things that help drive and help make our country strong and unique and foster this idea of American exceptionalism. So the things I think that would attack that belief and that idea are things that attack those principles. For example, I believe that a belief that the government should be the end-all, be-all, and be able to legislate every aspect of our lives and should be the answer to all our problems undermines a lot of the principles we hold dear in terms of personal responsibility, personal accountability, the ability to work and be able to succeed on our own merits. The biggest problem facing our country today is our deficit spending and our national debt. I think the way you need to approach those and to tackle those issues is you need to first start by capping the deficit spending. Second, you need to actually raise revenue, but not by raising taxes. You do it by increasing employment, so more people are paying in, and that raises the tax revenues. 3, I think you need to tackle the spending, and you need to actually have an honest conversation about the main drivers of our spending, which are entitlement programs: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. We also need to cut our discretionary spending, things like the Department of Education, Department of Energy, things you hear about. But that's how I would approach those, by first capping the deficits so we don't increase the deficit. 2, raising revenue by increasing jobs and fostering private sector job creation. And 3rd, by tackling spending, focus on the main drivers. So when we talk about separation of church and state, I think it's important to actually go back to the Constitution, because what that phrase is shorthand for is actually the Establishment Clause in the First Amendment. And there we know that Congress shall make no laws for the establishment of religion. And I believe that means that Congress or the government should not favor one particular religious group or one particular society over another. And that, as Americans, we need to be inclusive and we need to understand and appreciate all religious faiths, and that we need to signal to them that they're welcome here. I also believe, however, that in doing that, we do not need to elevate non-religion over religion. To me, I think the most important thing is that we respect what the Constitution says, and that we don't favor one religion over another. And I also mean that doesn't mean we have to remove God from our public life. If we're respectful and we realize what the Establishment Clause is designed to do, I think we can be respectful for all different types of sects and religious organizations, and again, not favor non-religion over religion. So in speaking of the General Welfare Clause and the Commerce Clause, I think the easiest way for me to answer that is tell you what I think they're not. I don't think they're a general license for the government to come and legislate and regulate every aspect of your life. Now, I know the Supreme Court over time has expanded, for example, the Commerce Clause. However, I believe that representatives and members of Congress don't need to or aren't required to go to the outer edges of the Supreme Court's interpretation of the Commerce Clause. They can exercise restraint and pass laws that comport with a narrow vision and view of the Commerce Clause.